there, and welcome back to another review. Today, it's a real pleasure to be reviewing this today because this is one of my all-time favourite sort of modern-day action thrillers from Hong Kong cinema from back in the day anyway. Especially one of my favourite, used to be sort of growing up, it was one of my favourite Donnie Yen vehicles as well. So it's really, really true honour to be reviewing this today because, as I say, I absolutely love this film. I had a soft spot for this film for ages and I still do, and it's a real pleasure to have it on Blu-ray along with the Tiger Cage box set. So talking about Tiger Cage 2 today, as I mentioned in my Tiger Cage 1 review, none of the films are connected. Like I say, all three of the Tiger Cage films are all just their own entities, their own unique thing. Again, directed by Yuen Ping here, made in 1990. And the difference is obviously between this film and the first film that Donnie Yen is the lead in this film. And that's, I think after having his brains blown out in the first one, I think Yuen Ping, it's time to make him the leading man, because obviously he'd been the leading man in the Yuen Ping vehicles before, such as Drunken Tai Chi. But here, I mean, this is basically just everything about this film is just, in my humble opinion, it's superior to the first Tiger Cage. It's not just that, it's superior to a lot of the films that were happening. It just stands out so much, this film, and that's what's so amazing about it. It's not just a generic run-of-the-mill modern day. All right, some of the plot device in this film you can look at it, okay, it's generic, but the film just doesn't stop. It's got such a great kinetic energy to it, and it just works so well. As I say, Donnie Yen's the lead here with Rosamund Kwan, who is always fantastic no matter what she's in. If you may recall, I mentioned her in my Once Upon a Time in China 1 and 2 reviews. She was also in Armour of God with Jackie Chan. She's been in so many films. Project A2, Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Star. She's been too many films to mention. And even this film even stars Robin Shou, or Robin Shou, however you choose to say it. Obviously most famous for Mortal Kombat, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. So I remember, like I say, because I saw this, like I say, in the mid 90s. I probably saw it, around, and that was sort of around the time Mortal Kombat come out as well. So I was like, oh, it's Robin Shou, it's the guy from Mortal Kombat. This is one of the first Donnie Yens I think I saw. I think that's why it has a soft place in my heart, because I think it was definitely one of the first earlier Donnie Yens that I ever saw, and I had it on VHS, and I still do have it on VHS when it was released by the Made in Hong Kong label. And one of my absolute favourites, as I say, and I can just watch it over and over. Watched it again, and always will, with the original language. I much prefer, as I've mentioned in many reviews, watching films when it is the original language. I just think I like to watch films as the director intended the film to be seen, with the actual, the voice of the real actors. So basically the plot of the film starts with David Wu's character bringing in a suitcase of money to Robin Shou's law firm, which is going to be used to buy like real estate, smuggling dirty money out of the US, the money laundering plot device here. Then in the same building, which is like a law firm, Donnie Yen and his wife are discussing what is going to be like divided amongst their assets as their marriage is over. And their lawyer, Rosamund Kwan, basically just nothing's going in Donnie's favour at all. And we'll say as well, another thing I love about Donnie Yen in this film, Donnie Yen, is that he does a fantastic powerhouse of a performance in this film. Forget the action. He's doing action. He's doing comedy in this really well, and I love that they make his character smoke. I think that was something up to that point I'd never seen sort of Bruce Lee do. I'd never seen Jackie Chan do. I'd never seen sort of a lead, and aside from like the typical bloodshed John Woo, Chow Yun Fat type vehicles, I'd never seen sort of a lead sort of kung fu guy, martial artist smoke like his character smoked. And it was just seeing that, and I thought that I know it's not maybe just a small thing, but it gave the film, and especially that character, just a bit more. Oh, he's a smoker. It just added a little bit more of an edge to Donnie Yen's character. It's just he smokes as well. It just added that little bit of something to him, which really did work. And I think Donnie Yen was very much loving this film. I think Donnie Yen was all over this film when it was in production. You can tell especially with the fight scenes, which I'm sure Donnie, as we know, Donnie Yen choreographed with you probably like help from the Yuen clan. Just really 110% effort here from Donnie Yen in every single frame. He doesn't stop. He's got such a, like I say, a kinetic energy in this film. He's hot-headed in this film. He's impulsive, and like I said, it's just a fantastic film with comedy. Not to mention some amazing fight scenes. So Robin and his buddies are coming down in the elevator with the money, and they get ambushed by these guys with guns. Rosamund Kwan, she's just finished work at this point as well. One of these guys manages to escape, manages to get out, gets in her car, to which he ends up going through the windshield. In the process, Donnie basically get involved. He sort of gets involved with all the ruckus, and then sort of the money disappears. So the whole thing becomes sort of a chase to find like where this money's gone. This is basically what it boils down to. And again, although, like I said earlier, even though the plot device is somewhat generic, it is somewhat, we know, but the way the film is and works, it just, like I say, I can't praise this film enough. So in the ambulance, and again, comedy here, in the ambulance after the police arrived, Mandy, Rosamund Kwan's character, she's being taken to hospital. Donnie Yen goes with her. She wakes up and she accuses Donnie Yen of basically being one of the guys. She thinks, no, you're in on it as well. And his colleague, Donnie Yen's colleague, Rosamund Kwan's like, I don't want to look at him, I don't want to see him, I don't want anything, I can't see his face. Donnie Yen's colleague sort of knocks him out, punches him out, and Donnie Yen, I think he gets knocked out a good few times in this film. This is sort of the first time of many Donnie Yen gets knocked out. And I don't mean like in fight scenes, but he will just get knocked out quite a few times, and I think that just adds again to the comedy of the character. He's just like few times he just gets knocked out completely, like out cold. So he gets knocked out, and then meanwhile, like Robin Shou's girlfriend sort of overhears everything when he's talking in the office, and she gets stabbed and killed. So she's been sort of murdered as well, sort of to keep her quiet, because Robin Shou doesn't want the getting out. So the bad guys comes to the hospital to get Rosamund Kwan, and they think they've got Rosamund Kwan, but they're actually taking Donnie Yen. They find out, they get in the van and they find out it's Donnie Yen, and they just chuck him out. They just push him out the van, and what's funny is when they cut back to Donnie Yen, it's night time. So what's funny about that is it means he's been there sort of all afternoon till the night time. Nobody's sort of wondered where he is or what's going on. Nobody's walked past him and said, "Are you okay?" He's just been left on this, like, the concrete by the road that whole time, which I always found funny. Just been there all night, which it just makes me laugh. And he basically at the end, what he does is he follows Rosamund Kwan to find out what's going on, where they find Robin Shou's girlfriend dead. They both get framed for murder for what happened. And the killer, who's in like a motorcycle helmet and leather, like the cops come in, Cynthia Khan, she comes in, and like I say, the killer is in like leathers and motorcycle helmets. She comes in, she arrests Donnie Yen and Rosamund Kwan on like suspicion of murder, and for no reason at all, which I still never really got, the killer just starts opening fire on all of them. It's like, well, you murdered her, you've got away with it. Why are you suddenly making things more awkward for yourself by raining like bullets on them? Like, what are you going to achieve by, you're just making things worse for yourself at this point. I never understood why the killer thought the need to sort of, if I just start shooting them, I never got that. Again, if there's something I'm missing, please tell me, but I just never understood why the killer just opened fire. So they got away with it. We then go to Donnie and Rosamund Kwan going through the street whilst handcuffed. Again, a lot of comedy here. Lot of films have the sort of handcuff scene where they handcuff somebody they don't want to be with, or somebody sort of can fight but the other person can't. Sort of Rosamund Kwan hitting him over the head relentlessly with a frying pan, or my favourite, when they go back to Donnie Yen's place. I mean, bearing in mind they've been accused of murder, I mean, they go back to Donnie Yen's place, which you might think the cops might be staking out or just keeping a visual on, but they go back to his place and obviously still handcuffed, and he really needs to urinate, he really needs to go to the bathroom, and she's sort of outside. and she sort of like slouches down on the floor to rest, and sort of his wheeze sort of going everywhere, and he just comes out and his trousers are completely soaked, which I know is sort of like juvenile sort of childish humour, but it just really works. If you watch that scene, you can't help but just smile a little bit. It's just, like I say, it's just the way it's played, and it's very it just works for the film, and it works for the character. So they go back to his place, and they wake up and they see a report of them on the news saying they are wanted, and at this point they just chill for some reason. Again, they seem to, they're wanted, they've been arrested for murder, but they just chill at his place. They're in no rush to sort of clear their names or do anything like that. They're quite happy to just chill, have some noodles, relax. Right, we got to get out of here. And I always found it weird, like sort of none of the neighbours, like Donnie Yen's neighbours close by, like know where he lives, or would phone the police like that's our neighbour or anything like that. And yet, like I say, bearing in mind like a whole night's passed, you think people or cops or the people in the police force might have come to check his apartment to see if he's gone back there, if he's there to sort of so they can arrest him. So yeah, so they're just chilling. Then they go to question David Wu's character, and David was they go to question, and yet again Donnie Yen gets knocked out. This time he gets knocked out of a plant pot, so that's twice. So he gets knocked out. Then Shou's thugs turn up, who had like David followed, thinking, right, the old idea is they think Rosamund Kwan has the money. Then they go for a meal in public. Again, bearing in mind they're wanted at this point, they go for a meal in like a restaurant out in the streets of Hong Kong. They're not too worried that they're wanted at this point. They can just afford to, they got time. Time's on their side. They got, not worried about being busted, being arrested, or anything like that. Great scene is here as well, where Donnie's fighting, and he gets everything on the table, sort of wraps it all in the tablecloth, plates, knives and forks, beer cans and everything, and he's just smacking the crap out of these sort of thugs, these goons that are sort of starting on him. Again, great action choreography, really good stuff. Very, very different to what I'd seen up to that point in regards to sort of Jackie Chan stuff, Sammo Hung stuff, the way Donnie Yen's his scenes were, his action choreography was always different. It was always a bit, Donnie Yen's style was always a bit edgier. I'm not saying Donnie Yen has quote unquote a style, but just the way, just some of the moves he does, and some of the, just the way it's shot, and the way the pacing of the fights and the fluidity and the rhythm. It was very different to sort of like the Jackie Chan-esque, Sammo Hung-esque type scenes. So yeah, they go from in public. Then we have like a chase on top of a bus, which is really well done. Robin Shou kidnaps them. In the meantime, Michael Woods and John Salvitti turn up from the US to check on the deal. I mean, at this point, really roughly who Donnie Yen's going to have to fight at the end. When two sort of foreigners turn up, and they're sort of mean and moody and look ready to kick off and fight at any point, you think, that could be the two Donnie Yen has to fight near the end of the film. So basically they escape, they stay at Donnie Yen's buddy's house. Cynthia Khan sees, that Robin Shou's receptionist has the same wound as what she gave the person in the motorcycle helmet. So she puts two and two together, that must be the killer. And yeah, so she figures that out. She goes after her, chase ensues. The motorcycle girl ends up getting killed anyway, obviously, because Robin Shou's probably worried she's going to tell Cynthia Khan information or something about what's going on. Donnie, David, and Rosamund Kwan. It's very much like a trio in this film. It's not. It's Donnie Yen, David Wu, and Rosamund Kwan. They end up sort of working together. Like as a team, and the three really do have good chemistry. Not talking about just the story here, but just talking about the chemistry between the three actors. It really does work between David, Donnie, and Rosamund. They really do have a good rapport going between them three, and when them three are on camera, there's a real chemistry. I've always felt that with this film, it just them three, every scene they're in together as a trio, it really does work. Eventually Rosamund Kwan figures out he must have left the money in the elevator shaft. That's where they go, and everything, that's where she realizes it's been. It's this point in the movie though that they seem to forget that David is actually a bad guy. Like he was in on like Robin Shou's like deal about the laundering and everything like that. And you as an audience, that sort of goes out the window. Like they sort of forget David's sort of a bad guy. I mean, like let's say Donnie's a cop. And like Rosamund Kwan's like a solicitor lawyer type person, and they seem to just completely forget that he is. I mean, all right, he's sort of helping them, like they're helping each other get the money back. But they become best friends. They're drinking together. And like I mentioned, really good chemistry. Between them, I must say. Obviously, David does eventually die at the end, so which I think he sort of had to sort of get, just to remind people, yeah, he was, he wasn't deep down at the core of it, he wasn't a good guy. He was part of the villains in this film. It's also worth mentioning as well that King Boxer himself, Lo Lei, is actually in this film. He crops up again, you couldn't even really call it a supporting role. He's only in just a handful of scenes, 2 or 3 scenes, I think. But you think, Lo Lei turns up. So as mentioned, David gets killed, and like I said, I think he had to, because like deep down he was a criminal. Then, as I say, the film, just giving you, like I say, running through the plot, just letting you know the beats of the plot. Then we have the amazing sword fight with John Saviti, which was way ahead of its time. It's worth watching Tiger Cage 2 just for the sword fight. Bearing in mind, like I say, this was 1990. And this was obviously what got Donnie Yen the job in Highlander Endgame. This was what sort of got him, when people looked at this and it's like, that's how you do a sword fight. This was what got him the job in Blade 2. Nearly like 10 years had passed that film. And that was the thing, like with Western filmmakers and distributors and producers, they took so long to sort of catch up to sort of what these guys in Hong Kong were doing years and years and years before. The speed of this sword fight, just everything about it is just absolutely sensational. It's one of them films where the whole film is good, but even just that scene alone is worth watching the film for. It's absolutely mind-blowing in terms of just swordplay and the speed and the intricacy and just everything about it. I say, really helped Donnie get the job in Highlander Endgame. Ends with them sort of sabotaging a deal. And then we get another scene where Donnie's hands are tied together. Again, just a bit gimmicky, very, very different from like a sort of a Jackie Chan type sequence while he's fighting Michael Woods. And then we get a great fisticuff sequence between him and Robin Shou. Just really good. The film at the end, it just doesn't. Obviously the end is in a warehouse, as they always are. But just right. I've got to fight this guy. How can we make it different? Right. I know my hands can be tied together. Right. I'm just going to use my feet, and he's doing like leg tricks and things on him. And it's definitely like Donnie Yen's choreography. It's definitely something he perfected as his films went on. It's definitely something he got a lot more into MMA. Donnie Yen, and he got a lot more into putting things like grappling and things like that into his films. But here he's doing a lot of like flashy kicks. He's trying to trick him. He's doing like sort of doubles with his feet. He's sort of like double taking, and it just works. Just having like I say, right, I can't just take on Michael Woods. Right, what can I do? I know, tie my hands together, set it apart, make it different. They kill Robin Shou, and then the end credits come up. Again, as I say, a really fun modern day action film with some great comedy. I love the dynamic between Donnie Yen, Rosamund Kwan, and David Wu, even though, like I say, he was a bad guy, but you forgive that because in reality that wouldn't make a lot of sense, because I don't know why he would work with like a cop who's, I don't know, I suppose because Donnie Yen was accused of murder, they feel they both got something to lose, I don't know. And it's lovely seeing Robin Shou in this film, but honestly, if you only ever see one of the Tiger Cage films, watch Tiger Cage 2. This is very much, like I say, in many ways, in my eyes, it was probably, Drunken Tai Chi. You could look at, Iron Monkey was a few years later, but in many ways, this was sort of the first classic Donnie Yen film, in my eyes. Done Mismatch Cut. There was other films Donnie Yen had done, don't get me wrong, and I know of them, or have seen them, but this to me was very much the first Donnie Yen must-see, amazing classic film that you have to watch. So just go and check out Tiger Cage 2. I think I've said enough about it, but if you've never seen it before, you are definitely in for a treat.